What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and of course this is episode 4 of Island 12. Now hopefully you guys have already seen yesterday's concept build video where I did draw out this project, this specific island in a concept art. You'll actually see that concept art towards the end of today's video, just before the slow-mo. A lot of people have asked to actually have the concept art there show up for comparison, so you guys can see the comparison between the concept work and the actual final project. Obviously this island here is going to take me the whole month of February, so there will be 4 videos this month about this specific island. We've obviously already done the concept work, so there probably won't be any more concept videos for this specific island unless we do a concept work for a character or maybe a specific part of this build, but we'll have to see about that. But there will be 3 more videos over the next couple of weeks for this specific build. So if you haven't already seen the concept, I would definitely go recommend you watch it. It's actually my best one so far, according to me, because I am obviously rating my own concept works. I do think I have done the best one so far with the last concept, so it would be really cool if you would go check that out and let me know what you think. But if you don't want to go watch that video, that's fine. You will see the end result at the end of today's video. But yeah, if you haven't seen the last video, you are going to get spoiled right now, because of course we are building a tree. This tree is kind of, as I explained in the concept video, this tree has a lot of meaning for the valley. A lot of meaning that I haven't explained all of it to you guys yet. I'm still actually writing the lore for this tree, but I know in my head exactly what this tree is for. A lot of the stuff I'm gonna be keeping back from you guys until a later date, maybe right until the end of the series, because it's like the link in the chain for all of the other islands, and I don't want to give away that link just yet. So this tree has a very deeper meaning than what I'm gonna talk about today, but everything I do talk about is obviously to do with the tree anyway. So the main thing that this tree is used for nowadays is it's a trade hub. It's a trade hub between all of the islands in the valley. Obviously, like I mentioned in the concept build video yesterday, because we're building this in Planet Coaster, all of the 12 islands are going to be fairly close together, because we have to squeeze them in to this one map, because otherwise we'll have like 10 different saves and that would just be ridiculous. I wanted to keep them all in one save so you guys can come in there and take a look at all of these islands. For that reason, the islands are a little bit smaller than I would have liked. They're going to have a little bit of less stuff in there, but that's okay. The only main problem with this is it makes them a lot closer to each other than they would be in reality. So in reality, these islands would be miles and miles and miles apart. I think the way I described it in the last video was, if you look at America and you look at the difference between like Florida and New York and California over there on the west coast, so those kind of distances are the distances you would expect to have between these islands. So obviously having massive spaces, massive gaps between these islands, the bridges that connect them together are incredibly long, and they would probably have mini islands along the way that would support these bridges, so they're not just like one massive bridge. They would have like a little bit of land floating that it would anchor down to along the way. But yeah, this tree is right in the middle, and all of these islands connect together because this is the trade hub, like I said. If you're on Island 3 or Island 7 and you produce something and you want to sell it, you would bring it to this tree, and there would be a massive bustling marketplace where all of the other races and all the other people in the valley would come and they would happily trade with you. So this is where you would either dump your stuff to get rid of it, to sell it, or you would come here to purchase stuff. So if you needed something, you would come here and you would buy it. Yeah, obviously there would be mules as well that would come here and pick up stuff for you and bring it back. If you didn't want to travel all the way here for something specifically, you could obviously pay someone to do that for you. But this is the trade zone, I guess you could call it, of the valley. So one little thing that I have done since the last episode was I've actually put this build into a scenario now. For this reason, I can now actually edit terrain outside of the limits of the park. So what I've actually done, I've taken two sides, the left and the right side of where the gate is, and along those boundaries, I've actually built some pretty rudimentary mountains for the time being, just to make it look, you know, a little bit more like a valley. So yeah, these mountains aren't anything special at the moment. We will revisit them probably towards the end of the series and fix them up, make them look more like proper mountains. But for the time being, I've just placed them there as kind of placeholders for the mountains that will be going in towards the end of the series. I just wanted to make sure that they fit in and they looked okay with the kind of shape that I've done so far. It just kind of caps off the build a little bit more, because before it was just kind of flat land with a little bit of trees out there, and that didn't really fit with the whole story of what this place was. So I did take some advice from a few of you guys, and yes, I have put this into a scenario now, and I believe I can actually make the height of the park a little bit taller as well if I need to build something higher. I believe someone said I could do that somehow. So if there happens to be a build later on that I need to raise the height of the park for, I can do that apparently. And there is a dog barking really loudly outside my door, so I do apologize. So actually building the top of the tree here, I thought this was going to be harder than actually sculpting the tree itself, but this actually turned out to be not that difficult. Obviously many trees went into the top of this tree, and I was a little bit concerned because obviously the more pieces you put into Planet Coaster Saves, the slower the park goes. But from what I've seen so far, this hasn't actually affected anything. I'm still kind of getting the same FPS. There's a few little areas around the base of this tree. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's something to do with shadows. But around a few of the roots of this tree, FPS drops a tiny weeny little bit. But it's not too bad. Usually if I change the daytime, and it changes the lighting, that seems to fix it. So it must be something to do with the shadows in the game. I'm not really too sure, but I am going to be going back to this tree in next week's episode and going down there towards the bottom of the tree and actually adding in roots and all of that kind of stuff. If you remember from the concept work I did yesterday, the actual thick roots had lots of dangling smaller roots hanging from the base of that. And I do want to put that into this build. It's going to make it look so much better. Now, obviously, a lot of you guys are probably looking at this thinking, "Oh, it looks like a tree, but it's not the right color." Yeah, that's a little bit of a problem. I'm not sure the best way to go with this, like spray-wise. I was thinking that there was going to be a spray I could use to just completely make this look like a brown trunk. Obviously the ones I've got in this park so far don't match any kind of trunk color, so I'm going to be looking around at the other sprays, terrain sprays, to see if there is one that can kind of match the look and color of a tree, but I'm not really too sure whether that's going to be possible, so I may have to just leave it like this or find another way of doing that. If you guys know of any spray, the colors that you can like mix together to kind of make a trunky color and looking trunk kind of looking color, Jesus, that was a tongue twister, do let me know in the comment section, because I do kind of need to make this look a little bit more like a tree, because at the moment it just looks like terrain in the shape of a tree, which is fine because, you know, it's pretty recognizable as a tree as is anyway. There's not really too much of a problem, but for me personally, I would like it to look a little bit more color wise like a tree, you know. So in next week's episode, we are going to be obviously working a lot more on the detail for the canopies, the main trade areas. There's going to be 3 trade areas or maybe 4 altogether. We're going to have the big one that circles around the whole trunk of the tree, and then as you go higher and higher up the tree, there's going to be like smaller private trade areas for, you know, like the really rich people. They go to the private trade areas up there. So there is also a staircase inside the trunk, which you're going to see me build a little bit later on in today's episode. This is going to connect the different trade areas. So if you're on the main trade area and you want to go up to one of the private ones or smaller ones, you have to go inside and up the spiral staircase. This was actually a really nightmare kind of thing to build, as you'll see a little bit later on. It was there was not a lot of room inside that trunk to get the staircase in, so the staircase is kind of like mangled, but we're going to do some decorating to it hopefully, which will make it look a little bit nicer in there, probably in not next week's episode but the one after that. So look forward to that one. So as you can see right now, we're just obviously adding the roots down on the ground. If you've ever seen a toppled tree or a tree that's like been ripped up because of the wind, there's always roots, like massive roots in the ground that have been like partially ripped up. So there's like poking out of the ground. They're all over the place. So the ground was something I wanted to make sure I did cover as well. I didn't want to just leave it flat down there. I wanted to make it look, you know, like there was roots that had been pulled and snapped and ripped and all that kind of obvious stuff that would be there for this tree. So yeah, I really wish I could tell you guys the lore of this tree because it's very interesting, but unfortunately I'm gonna have to keep some of that lore to myself for the time being. As you can see there, I actually just switched the daytime to a different time of day. That was because that was when I was experienced that really weird like shadow lag, I guess you could call it. I'm not sure whether anyone else has experienced that. There's probably something in my settings I can change that would fix that problem, but yeah, changing the daytime seemed to fix that, so it must be down to some shadows or something. I'm not really too sure. Right, so as you can see right now, we've started work on the main platforms of the trade area. So I think I put 3, maybe 4 in at this point, and in the next week's episode we will be working on the main trade floor, that big circular one down there. We'll be putting the big canopies in above that, so that's going to be nice and interesting, working out how to do that exactly. When you're working from concepts, it really does kind of make it more interesting to build, because normally if you try something and it doesn't work, you can just scrap that idea because no one knew that you had that idea in the first place. But when you've drawn a concept and everyone's seen it already, you kind of have to you know, actually build it. So you have to find a way to do it, and that's what I really like about doing this concept work. You have to find a way to build what you've drawn on paper. So yeah, it's really cool. Anyway, this is pretty much the end of today's video. What you're about to see is the concept picture itself, and then we're going to go into some slow-mo cinematic footage. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you tuning in. If you liked today's video, please remember to leave a like. Feel free to subscribe as always, and I will see you next week with the next build. Bye bye.